The fluorescent lights of Walter Reed, National Military Medical Center hummed, their monotonous tune as Marcus Chen pushed his cleaning cart down the radiology wing at 11:47 p.m. His weathered hands gripped the mop handle, the same hands that had once performed complex surgical procedures in another lifetime, before his wife's illness drained their savings, before the medical bills became mountains, before he had to choose between his career and being present for his dying partner and their 5-year-old daughter, Emma. Now, 3 years after burying the love of his life, Marcus wore a janitor's uniform and found dignity in honest work that let him be home when Emma woke for school each morning. He'd learned that pride was a luxury single fathers couldn't afford. But love was the one thing poverty couldn't steal. Tonight, like every night, Marcus moved through the sterile corridors with quiet efficiency, invisible to the doctors and nurses who rushed past. He'd become a ghost in scrubs, and he preferred it that way. Invisibility meant no questions about why a former cardiothoracic surgeon now mopped floors. It meant no pitying glances when colleagues from his old life occasionally passed through these halls. As Marcus emptied the trash bin near the radiologist's station, a sheet of film slipped from the overflowing wastebasket, landing at his feet. He bent to retrieve it, intending to dispose of it properly, when something made him pause. The X-ray showed a chest cavity. He could tell that much immediately. But his trained eye, dormant for years yet never truly sleeping, caught something that sent ice through his veins. There, in the upper left quadrant, was a shadow. Not just any shadow, an aortic dissection in its early stages, masked by what appeared to be post-surgical scarring. Someone had signed off on this scan, deemed it clear, but Marcus knew better. He'd seen this exact presentation twice in his career, and both times, the patients had been hours away from a catastrophic rupture. His hands trembled as he held the film up to the light. The name on the scan read General Robert Harrison, 62. Tomorrow's date was stamped in the corner with a note. Cleared for overseas deployment to Germany, 600 hours. Marcus's breath caught. If this man boarded that flight, he'd likely suffer a complete aortic rupture mid-flight. At 30,000 feet, there would be no saving him. He'd be dead before they could emergency land. For a long moment, Marcus stood frozen in the empty hallway, wrestling with a decade's worth of demons. He'd walked away from medicine. He'd lost his license during his wife's illness, when he'd missed too many recertification requirements while serving as her full-time caregiver. He had no authority here, no credentials, no right to question the diagnosis of licensed physicians. Who would listen to a janitor? But he also knew what he was looking at, and he knew that silence would be murder. Marcus glanced at his watch, 11:52 p.m. He had to act fast. With shaking hands, he pulled out his phone and searched for the on-call radiologist's extension. When a tired voice answered, Marcus's words tumbled out. "This is Marcus Chen from Environmental Services. I'm sorry to bother you, but there's a scan here for General Harrison, and I think there might be an issue with—" "Are you seriously calling me about a medical diagnosis?" The doctor's voice dripped with condescension. "Unless there's a biohazard situation, this line is for physicians only." The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone, his heart pounding. Emma's face flashed through. His mind, what would he tell her about? Doing the right thing when it was hard? He'd taught her that courage meant acting even when you're terrified, especially when someone's life hung in the balance. He made a decision that would either save a life or cost him his job. Marcus actually ran through the hospital. Corridors to the executive wing, where he knew General Harrison would be, staying in the VIP section. Security stopped him immediately. "Sir, you can't be up here," the guard said firmly. "I need to speak with General Harrison. It's an emergency, a medical emergency. Are you his physician?" "No, but—" "Then you need to leave now." Marcus felt desperation clawing at his throat. "Please, just 5 minutes. I'm begging you. His life depends on it." The commotion drew attention. A door opened and a tall, silver-haired man in a patient gown emerged, his bearing unmistakably military despite his current state. "What's going on out here?" "Nothing, General. Just removing an overzealous staff member," the guard said, gripping Marcus's arm. "Wait." General Harrison's steel-gray eyes locked onto Marcus. "Let him speak." Marcus held up the X-ray, his voice urgent but steady. General, I found your scan. I'm former cardiothoracic surgery. I know I'm just a janitor now. But, sir, you have an aortic dissection forming. It's masked by your surgical scar tissue, but it's there. If you get on that plane tomorrow, you could die. The hallway fell silent. General Harrison studied Marcus for a long moment, then took the film, examining it himself. The radiologist cleared this. I know, sir, and I know I could be wrong. But I've seen this presentation twice before, and both times, Marcus's voice cracked. Both times we lost the patient. I can't let that happen if there's even a chance I'm right. Please just get a second opinion. Get a CT angiogram. Prove me wrong, but please don't get on that plane. Something shifted in the general's expression. He'd led men into battle, made life-and-death decisions in split seconds, and he'd learned to recognize truth when he saw it. Guard, call Dr. Ramirez. Wake him up if you have to. Tell him I want an immediate CT angiogram. 2 hours later, Marcus sat in the hospital director's office, certain he was about to be fired. Instead, General Harrison walked in, followed by Dr. Ramirez and the chief of cardiology. Mr. Chen, Dr. Ramirez said quietly, you were right. The CT showed a Stanford Type A dissection. We're taking the general into emergency surgery within the hour. If he'd gotten on that plane... The doctor couldn't finish the sentence. General Harrison extended his hand to Marcus. His grip firm despite the circumstances. You saved my life. A janitor who gave up everything to care for his family, who lost his career but not his conscience, who risked his job to save a stranger. That's not just medicine, that's character. What can I do to repay you? Marcus thought of Emma, of the life they'd built from the ashes of their loss. Just live, sir. Be there for your family. That's all I wanted for mine. But General Harrison was a man accustomed to accomplishing missions. 3 months later, Marcus received a letter informing him that an anonymous donor had established a fund to cover his medical license reinstatement, along with a position as a consulting physician at Walter Reed with hours that would let him still take Emma to school each morning. The letter was signed simply, "From one father to another with gratitude and respect." Marcus never returned to the janitor's closet, but he never forgot what he'd learned there. That worth isn't measured in titles or paychecks. That courage sometimes means risking everything for someone you've never met, and that the smallest act of integrity can ripple out in ways we never imagine. He kept his janitor's uniform, hanging in his office as a reminder that dignity lives in every honest job, and that the truest measure of humanity isn't what we do when people are watching, it's what we do when we believe no one will ever know.